Listen, I'll say one thing about Phaser.
All right.
From the beginning of when he was introduced to us, and I mean like Jump Festa reveal, to now, Phaser has only ever been one thing, and the show knows it. And that is a thirst trap. Alright.
All right, here we go. And we're back. You thought this podcast was dead after one episode, but we made the second one. It's crazy.
I mean, it could have been dead.
It could have, it really realistically could have been dead. But we somehow made it to week 3, if we do it timeline wise.
Well, the second episode, but it's week 3.
Yep. So how's the 2 weeks been for you, or?
It's been pretty chill, we had a locals in that time, which is great, so now we can talk about it.
Yep.
And then 2 new Go Rush episodes have aired since then, full of lore drops. So this is going to be a packed podcast, I think.
Yep. And actual, somewhat interesting cards to look about. There are a few that, personally to me, and maybe personally to Aura, not that interesting. So we might not cover them. Sorry, DM fans. I don't want to talk about the DM cards.
So true, ST.
So I guess just to get the cards out the way, because they're kind of the least interesting part that happened. Funnily enough.
Yeah, actually, you're very correct.
So I think the first thing I would just want to talk about is that congratulations to Gakuto. His fusions are actually easy to summon now. So good for him.
His fusions are much more consistent, which is great because the problem with his fusions weren't that they weren't good, um, which can happen for some of the earlier, like way early fusions. But his rulers were good. It's just it was terrible trying to go into them.
Yep. Like for the type that it was, like if you think back then, what warriors had, what did they have? Nothing, for the most part.
And even when Sky Savior came around, the meme was, "Oh yeah, we're gonna excavate 4 just to not find fusion."
Yep.
Like, even with Sky Saviors, they weren't saving the rulers.
Nope. But
But these
thankfully,
new cards.
yep, we got a consistency draw spell, some actual recovery tools, and what is it? Like a stepping stone fusion? It's weird. It's like the one with the needle girls. I,
Yeah, Hagoromo.
yeah.
By the way, I'm surprised I didn't see this in the new organization post, but Hagoromo is the word that refers to like the flowing cloth that you see around like divinity. So that's what it is, Hagoromo.
Oh, yeah, they
But
didn't list it there.
mm, yeah, I was surprised because I thought they were gonna put a translation note, but it's okay. Anyway, the stepping stone fusion is really good. Um, at first glance, it seems okay. Um, especially because like you have to run its materials, which I mean you're already running Needle Kyrie. Um, but Cut Passery
Yeah, it's like what the
was
new name
just
is. Yeah.
yeah, it was just okay. Um, however, uh, with Hagoromo, it's so much worth it now to run Cut Passery because Hagoromo can recycle all of your polys, basically. That's what they are. They're polys, not fusions.
Yep.
Um, and it's not once per, or, well, it is once per turn, but it's not like once per summon. If your
Mm-hmm.
Hagoromo manages to survive until the next turn, um, it's you just get to keep recycling your poly.
Yep. And she's already like 25 defense. And if you
Mm-hmm.
wanna run the saviors in the ruler deck, they have synergy with Agurumo. Because you can get back the warriors or like the fairy girls.
Mm-hmm. Although, at least from the beginning test decks that I've seen, um, personally, at least for me and my build, I only run one Sky Savior, and that's a very generic Cielo. The one where
Yeah.
you reveal 5 Celestial Warriors, and then you lower attack by the amount that you revealed. Because I think this deck is a little stacked and cramped in terms of space
Yep.
because all of the Gokto rulers are level 8s. And every single one of them has an applicable fusion that I think can be run in the deck. Whether or not they should be run, I think more labbing and testing will figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the cards are just way too new, and we haven't tested them extensively to really figure out like what to keep and what to slim down.
But very good stuff. I'm hoping we get to see it in action, but you never know. Because, like, the problem with fusion decks will always be you need to draw the materials and fusions. At least it's getting easier over time. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the only thing I want to cover from the Blue Eye stuff, like, if you listen to the last episode, they addressed most of the problems we had with Blue Eyes. Like, they
Yeah.
literally answered most of the problems. It's insane. The only card I want to talk about is Phoenix Dragoon. Like, that's.
Oh yeah.
I want to thank whoever at Konami decided to support the rest of us who don't care about Blue Eyes that much.
Phoenix Dragoon is such a good card that Blue Eyes does not need now that they have Absolute Lord of D.
Yep,
Phoenix Dragoon is so funny. It is a dealer finally for all those decks that run level 8s and need a dealer because we don't have access to ship.
yep.
So that's I've used it in Dark Galaxy. I really like it. Um, and I've used it in Gokto Warriors because they're also all level 8s, and I've
Mm-hmm.
also really enjoyed it there.
I've been trying it in baseball. It has even more synergy there because it's a level 4
Oh,
fire.
see, the only problem with that is it's baseball.
We don't talk about the problems of decks people want to play. If that's the case, like, only 3 decks remain in Rush. Maybe 2 if you're stretching
I
it.
remember someone on the kitchen server asked if anyone had done testing with Phoenix Dragoon. And I had with baseball. And I said, yeah, it's actually a pretty good card. It makes Grounded more consistent, makes the deck more consistent overall. The only problem is that no matter how many cards you're drawing, you're still only drawing into baseball cards.
It's not enough these days. It's not enough. But hey,
Yeah.
like, what, 44 attack ground draw? Beats over most of it. It beats over a maximum, funny enough. But yeah. And I think the last thing I just want to cover, other than the fact that we got new alt arts for all the aces, is I think the most interesting, like, sneaky card that I think I'm seeing more people start to, like, appreciate it. It's the Draco the Tiny retrain.
Oh yes, Draco the plushie.
The
Or
plushie, the
Draco the
handstone.
handstone.
Yeah,
I call it Draco the plushie.
the plushie is so good. Like,
And it rhymes with tiny.
it runs with Tiny because, like,
No, I've been seeing it used a lot in a lot of labbing decks. Yeah, I mean it's a free draw. Um and it works with Gakto
yeah,
fusions because your normal 1400 defense is the cornerstone of every single Gakto fusion.
yep. And the new Gakuto spell lets you use face downs as fusion material, so it still
Mhm.
works. And don't do this because the deck is bad and is still bad. You can
But
run it with chairs, and it works really well in chairs. But don't run chairs. Trust me, it is never a good idea. But if you want to run chairs, you should include this.
why are you feeding bad ideas to the audience?
I fed bad ideas to everyone. I just have a bigger platform now.
Hmm.
But yeah, and I think the last thing in terms of cards, Yame, Ruler, and Gitarna finally getting over rush rares like the other aces like SRM and Dragius. And Dragius, and I think this is somehow eclipsing that because we've technically had it for like years and we never got it printed. Phantom Dragius is now officially able to be, like, played in physical rush.
Evil Dragus, as it were.
I don't
You know,
know.
I really like that card art. I always use it in the Switch game whenever I play, but it's
Hmm.
literally only been available in the Switch games, and nowhere else.
And nowhere, I don't know why they held off on it for this long.
Right?
Like, we got blue SRM, like the blue flame one, and you think it'd go in that set, but it didn't. It went in this set.
We have so many SRM and Dragius alt arts. Like, this is just another one for the pile. Like, SRM has, like, 7 alt arts now.
I mean, have you looked at him recently? Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, I look at him every day, but
if you play in tournaments, you probably see that guy way too often.
oh god, true.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much all the cards I think are interesting enough. Sorry, everyone, about caring about the other cards. I think the only card I want to mention is V Friend, because it's just a psychic that mills 5. If you want to run the other band members, go right ahead, but I don't encourage it.
I think Befriend is really interesting because it mills up to 5. So you get to control how much you mill, which I really like the idea of. Um this is just like a theory slash an idea I have that um I have not tested out. But if you combine a more controlled mill with the deck stacking of reptiles, and also V-Friend is a light.
V Friend
Just
is a
saying.
lot, yeah.
I mean, not that reptiles need another boss because they already have everything they need. I just feel like on paper it sounds like a good idea. In practice, not so much.
I think there will be a home for this card. It's just not there yet, and probably not in Psychic, even though, funnily enough, in Psychic, it's like I think the only Psychic boss that hits 3k without needing anything like any setup, anything from your opponent, none of that.
hmm
So if you just want a
It's just a
beater,
good generic.
yeah, who cares about physical cardboard? We're here for anime cardboard. This is the part where which this is like the podcast now. I'm sorry. Who cares about everything else?
Who cares about everything else except for the one thing that we care about?
Yep. We're right. You're also right, viewer. We care about your opinion. Share it down below. Anyway, episode 75 and 76. I mean, do you want to take us, Aura, on this journey of what the fuck happened?
Yeah, so quite all happened.
Yep.
And I think that explains like the entirety of 75, 76 because like all of these 2 episodes has been Quietle speaking and dropping major lore and exposition. And every single time he speaks, there's always more questions and stuff happens. So like don't take me saying, "Oh, it's just been Quietle speaking" as like, "Oh, these episodes are boring" because it's not. They're definitely not.
There's so much happened around it, but like the focus is obviously on him. And they're doing a good job
Mhm.
by giving him the time he needs.
To just kind of ferment, I guess you could say. Um No, the we're gonna talk about 75 first. I mean, it was Quietel's introduction. He explains, or well, they figure out his motivations, and he's like, "Oh, you're so correct." What I really like about these past 2 episodes is that they have slowly been, I guess you could say, firing off every single gun that is on the table. That they introduced since literally episode 1
Since literally
of Go
episode
Rush.
1, yep. And even like
Um,
events before episode
Oh yeah. Um, and even explaining the explanation
1.
that
Yep.
they gave in 50 and 51, the end of season 1, like it keeps going. Like Quaitel basically ties the entire series together. Like he is the mastermind of everything that happened in the show. Um, he's he was our narrator in the beginning. He's the person that goes Udius Velgir, a warrior from a galaxy far away that rushes onto a new battlefield called Rush Duels or whatever. Like that's him. And then we learned this recent episode 76 that he's also the person who literally orchestrated everything in the series. The creator had nothing to do with it. This entire time, we have been like, "Oh, why would the creator do this? Why would the creator do that?"
He didn't.
And turns out he hasn't done anything actually. It's all been quite all. And it's not like Quaidoul is like a lackey of the creator. This episode makes it very clear, but 75 also made it clear as well that Quaidoul is acting on his own. He's not under orders from anyone. He's not being influenced by anyone. He is doing this strictly because the creator once said, or obsessed, I should say, over Rush Duels, and he's like, I wonder what those are. And like this entire chain of events started because of him. Um, like as far as we know, the only thing the creator has done is introduce Quidol to the concept of rush duels, and created the Karutamata, the Belgarians, and then he left for Earth, and that was all. He was what blows my mind, and I don't know if I remember if I said it this podcast or at another chat, but I remember saying, you know what? I bet that the creator didn't even talk to Udius. It was Quaido who did it, and then this episode confirmed that
Yeah,
it wasn't the creator speaking to Zuijo when he died and told him about the truth. It was Quaido. He was just taking the form of the creator.
I do remember you mentioning it in another chat because it was something I was thinking about as well. Where it's like, who was talking to him? It was actually Kawhi Duel and the whole interference thing. I think it was also now we can think it's Kawhi Duel interfering with Zuijo during the finale duel.
It was insane. It was amazing. Like this episode showed that Quaido was the person that put everything in motion. Like all of this didn't happen by chance. No,
Mm-hmm.
it was Quaido.
Even down to the oh, they fell into like the pool in the fountain. What was the name of it again? The
Yeah, it was the Go Rush You.
yeah, the Go
So
Rush You.
yeah, and like, oh, the fact that they went and made it and crashed at the Goroshu was not coincidence. Kwaido made sure their coordinates were set to the Goroshu, and then while UDS and the 8.88 million cat boys were like taking a bath
The
in the
springs.
Goroshu,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was Kwaido who pushed UDS and sent him flying into the relic.
All to just set in motion. Funnily enough, what Zuijo failed for him. But, in fairness to Zuijo, Rush Duels wasn't there when Kawhi Duel arrived. The first time.
Yeah, this I mean, I'm still reeling from like the revelations of this episode and the way like this entire thing has been flipped on its head because like we all thought it was the creator. We're like, oh, the creator's the villain, the creator's behind all of this. It's Otis. It's all of that, right? But Kaido was like, nope, all me.
Literally all him. And he's so proud and smug about it, which is a good thing to have because it sort of reminds me of that little bit of smug phaser we got in his duel against Udius, but it just exaggerated with Kawhi Duel. And that's not to say that there's not any mysteries left in the show. There's still like a buttload more questions. And the
Oh yeah.
creator is still important at the end of the day because, like, why make the Valgyrians? I mean, you can sort of like make it, oh, he said the universe is boring without someone to play your game, but I don't think that's enough of a reason to go off of. And also, the whole thing about Mutsabat down and the spaceship, he still did all of that. So we still have a ton more questions that might get answered in the next episode, but maybe not all of them, I'm assuming. Only a few, and probably the ones related to Kawaii Duel.
Oh yeah, we still have so many questions we can go through. It's actually insane. Um how much Quaido answers, uh, but also how much he raises again.
Mm-hmm.
He's
And
he's a really good example of a good villain that has been actually built up to.
even if you didn't know it, he's been
Okay,
there
even if
the
you didn't
whole
know it.
time. And I think the other thing about the episode, well, both episodes technically, because it's like another huge element with it that is like central to what's going on in the duel itself. The funniest card I've seen in a while, and I'm so glad both Gorush and Sevens keep the tradition of funny ass bullshit anime cards that you will never see ever in real life play. Interstellar Change. What a
Yes.
card.
Oh my god. I I enjoy realistic duels because I want to be able to know that X thing that the characters did in the show is replicable in real life. However, it's an anime. Like, I want it to have the quote unquote anime bullshit. Like, I want to be hyped for something that is absolutely insane and no one would ever think of because it either wouldn't work in real life or it would have major implications in real life that no one would want to deal with. And Interstellar Change is the card for that.
Like, even as bullshit as it is, they still gave it some rules. And I just like the idea that Suijo and Phaser talk together and like, all right, who's gonna main the deck? And Phaser's like, I'm gonna main the deck. We're gonna use my deck for it. Like, how do you do that?
They plan this so well. And by the way, the Zuijo's Requiem and Phaser's Leviathnite fusion is sick as hell.
Like,
It's so
it's
cool.
there's so many elements of it. I like even like the most basic and obvious one that it's holding Leviathnite sword and Requiem sword. Just like it's too good. It's literally too good.
And then the fact that they did the summon chant together?
How is it that Zuijo fused with Phaser first rather than Udius? I think maybe that says more about Phaser and his appeal.
Can we talk about that on this podcast?
I mean, you know, okay, I shouldn't say this.
It is tagged explicit, isn't it? And
It is
because I keep
it is
swearing.
yeah, it is. And okay, I'm not gonna say too much, but the things about Phaser will come into play later. That's all I'm saying regarding that.
Listen, I'll say one thing about Phaser.
All right.
From the beginning of when he was introduced to us, and I mean like Jump Festa reveal, to now, Phaser has only ever been one thing, and the show knows it. And that is a thirst trap.
They showed it.
And that's all I'll say.
They showed him to us without clothes on. And I am not being hyperbolic. It actually happened. So like and also like sometimes in the preview images they just show Phaser randomly, even if he shows up for one scene, because they know what we're here for.
The that one episode where Phaser was literally only in for maybe 2 minutes, where he was thinking to himself while Asaka and Yuna were
Yeah,
arguing.
yeah, that one.
That one episode, um, the Rush Duel anime Twitter posted they usually post the previous week's episode on Wednesday for everyone to watch on YouTube, and it's like not region locked or anything. Of course it's entirely raw, but like you can go and watch it. It's on YouTube. Um the tweet that they made for that episode, they posted 4 images of Phaser. Just
Four
think,
images.
and he was in this episode for 2 minutes, if that. Like,
They know what we're here
they know.
for. They know. They made the guy. They know what they're doing. And I think what is it? The only other things that really come to mind from the two episodes, because like the big one's Kawaii Duel. Second one is Interstellar Change, because they gave it both the animation in '75 and the music. Like the music, I think one of the peaks, if not the peak, of Go Rush so far. Just like the transitions.
The music in last episode and in this one,
And in this one, yeah.
because they expanded on the soundtrack that we heard when Phaser and Zuijo switched places, because like that was a mix of Phaser and Zuijo's theme, and like the way the guitar comes in, when it's Phaser's turn and then it switches to like the synths for Zuijo, like that, it's so good.
It's
It's
so
so
good.
good. I can't even begin to like speak on how good this soundtrack is. I like whoever is doing the seventh and Go Rush soundtrack. Thank you so much. Like
It's
this is
insane.
insane. Hmm. And this isn't even talking about Duel's theme, which was also in
Oh,
last episode.
yep.
And the way they basically they didn't use organs, which I find really interesting. Instead, to kind of give the same feeling as organs, they picked another sort of airy maybe is that the word, instrument that would play the same notes in the same style as an organ, to give him that sort of foreboding, like, grandiose feeling. Someone cleaned up all of Quaidel's dialogue while his theme was playing so that only the background music is playing, and they put it on YouTube. So like if you just want to search Quaidel's theme on YouTube, it'll probably pop up. Um and you just want to listen. It's so good. Like it's this show has consistently knocked its soundtrack out of the park, and it has made like all of these scenes, like these really impactful scenes towards the end of the series, the Phaser and Zuijo change, Quaidel's appearance, the Zuijo and Yuhi change, like the soundtrack has completely carried.
Just like if you wanna just experience that scene and replace it with any other like hype, dramatic, like even like music that you'd see in other shonen anime, it's not gonna be the same. Like the music itself puts so much work, as Aura's saying, to elevate it.
Yeah, and the scenes themselves, I feel like if they put, let's say, I don't know, some random stock royalty free music, right, in the background, the scene probably would have been still pretty impactful, but the music makes it iconic.
Mm-hmm. And now that you mentioned it a little bit ago, we knew about this already. Yuhi finally stepping up and actually dueling in a finale, which is something that we talked about in the last podcast of it may or may not happen, and it
Mm-hmm.
actually happened. And I'm not the biggest Yuhi fan. He has many flaws with him, but I have to give credit where it's due. They have, like, even from season one, built him up to like take this duel over. Like, there's a lot of little things that Yuhi went through that made him like, I don't want to say the person for that duel, but like if like you had to pick one person to take over for like the finale of this arc, Yuhi would be one of them.
Oh yeah. Um, I mean, he's had the whole thing where he changed decks with his sister, um, accidentally like changed decks again against Shubaha, played another different deck again versus Yuga while they were in cat form.
Yep.
Um, like all of that just to build up to this moment where he is yet again playing with someone else's deck. Um, and that's it's really cool. I'm in the same boat. I'm not much of a Yuki fan. However, I have started to like him a lot as of these couple episodes. Um, I think season one Yuki was kind of terrible to sit through. Um, I should say like season one Yuhis because there was a new Yuhi every other episode that he was in. But season two Yuhi, now despite the weird handling they had of him in the first arc of season two, like with the whole Tremolo thing, I didn't quite like how fast he got over his depression. Like they literally just off screened his depression, like Soul Burner off screening his trauma. Like that's basically what it was. Oh, Soul Burner's like, yeah, I dealt with my trauma off screen. Sorry, Blood Shepherd. And Yuhi in versus the Tremolo duel is like, yeah, I dealt with my depression off screen. Sorry, Tremolo. Anyway, besides that one large speed bump, season two Yuhi has been a lot more consistent and a huge joy to watch on screen whenever he comes on because he feels like a substantial character now. And it feels like he's earning the relevancy rather than season one where it was just kind of given to
Yeah,
him.
exactly. Like it's a lot of oh my god, Yuhi's doing this thing, but it's like cool, good for him. It just happened, and then they immediately put him into a speed bump yet again because he changes personality. But the fact that he's been consistent, it just makes it much more easier for me to accept. If you want to like pick a point, it's like after he got carded, I think that's when he's been like the most consistent. Like after
Hmm.
that point.
Yeah, he feels consistent. His character development feels extremely earned now. Like they're like this episode where he steps up for his sister because Yuamu is having like a minor panic attack over like, oh no, who's gonna replace Suijo? Who from Earth is gonna replace Suijo? Because we can't have another Valkyrian replace him because of the special rule. It's really nice. Yuhi has evolved a lot, and I've really started to enjoy him. Um, and I'm glad because with Bridge's track record, um, at least in regards to sevens, I've seen them like fumble a lot of characters in season two.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but Yuhi has had the opposite effect, where he was kind of terrible in season one, but he has improved substantially in season two. He's been great, and I mean, I'm glad he's having his moment.
Yep. And I think other than the Yuhi stuff and like interstellar chains, I think the only other thing we should really think about, or like at least ask, where is Yuga? Where did he go?
Oh, that's true. I think he's probably gonna appear during the finale of this arc. Considering how much Otis is being name dropped now and we're focusing on him, um, I don't think we're going to be speaking about Otis or having him appear on screen without Yuga also being like, "Hey, you, you
Motherfucker.
motherfucker."
Yeah, like that's the. I feel like of all the people that should say that reaction, Yuga has earned it.
Yuga has earned it. Yuga deserves to not only say that to Otis, but to punch him in the face.
Like the poor guy, his whole situation right now in Go Rush, and the fact that Rush Duels are now in the past and were used for intergalactic war is because of him. Like you deserve to punch Otis in the face.
You deserve to punch, to slap, to kick, whatever you want to do, Yuga, honey. Go for it.
Go for it. You deserve it. But onwards to the locals that we had and talking about it.
Oh yeah.
So just to give everyone up to speed, we had around I think 30 players. I think that was like the general attendance. A few people dropped, so the
We
numbers
had
were
so from the beginning we had 33 people. And then over the course I think like 5 or 6 people dropped after round 3. You know how it is. It's
yeah,
usually round 3 or round 4 where people start dropping if they're not gonna make it into Top Cut.
yep,
Um but in the beginning we had 33 people. Um
which is like the
which is
usual, yeah, that we have.
yeah, very healthy. The usual.
So our top eight, we didn't have time to do full top cut playouts. So this is just top cut from like top eight from Swiss. And I'll go over it in order. So first place, undefeated, Gaia, piloted by Volt. So you can sort of attribute some of that to Volt. But still, it's notable that Gaia made it all the way. Then at second, we had Cuties by Spyro. And then Go Second Wonder with I think it was Jan, NPC Jan. And
Yeah,
then
his was Seven's Gyosou 2K still,
yeah,
so it was still Wonder.
it was just more built to go second. And
Mm-hmm.
then we had two reptile players, a slightly different variation in the list. Pure glass machines, or like you can call it good stuff machine, but it plays pure glass. And then we had Light Galaxy, specifically with the Wonder Road Rhinac package. And then lastly, Harpies.
So about what you'd expect, honestly. I think the one big toss-up that was unexpected is of course Gaia.
Yep.
I do have to say, however, I have to preface this by saying that Volt had a round 1 bye, so he didn't go 6-0, he went 5-0 in reality. Um And then 3 of his 5 matches were against reptile players, um, using decks that are meant to let you do whatever you want because their job is to knock you down to size and run over you.
And if Gaia gets to play, then you know.
Yeah, if Gaia gets to play, it's a very good deck. However, in my opinion at least, Obviously, I can be wrong. Um, but I still don't think Gaia is a good deck even after this locals. I do think that Vault is a very good player. Vault has been playing since the beginning of Rush, and Vault plays a lot of other card games as well. Um, and he's generally, I mean, like, not generally, he's a very good player overall. So I do feel like the pilot in this sense made the deck a lot better than it would have been if it were anyone else playing this deck.
There's also the factor that not a lot of people, at least going from last locals to this one, have much experience playing against Gaia.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a bit of a new deck. And while it has slowly done results over in Japan with their stuff, it's one of those decks where it's like you have to respect it and you have to know that it's in the format, because if you don't respect it, you just sometimes will lose to Battle Ruler swinging over all your monsters for like 4,000 damage, you know? That's something
Yeah,
you should expect.
the deck is very good when it's allowed to play. And that's the key word here, right? When it's allowed to play.
Yep.
It can very easily get locked out of playing via stuff like Barrier Statue, Vanity's Fiend, Word Working, you know?
There's a
Um,
lot of cards that
similar to Wonder, but Wonder has more I guess you say tools and utility to an Wonder has another win con built into the boss monsters that it plays. Gaia doesn't have that.
Gaia just has Battle Ruler.
Mm-hmm.
And you can say Dragon Champion is one, but like Dragon Champion is vanilla. Like who cares? It's Battle Ruler. That's the main appeal of Gaia. And if you are playing Gaia, you have to be aware of the problems. So you have to play stuff like Bluetooth or Wartizan, like cards to out floodgates, that kind of stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then other than that, I think most of the decks, as you said, are what we expected. I'm glad to see that Cuties looks like you can still make it work, even with all the hate going around. And the
I
one
think I do think it's because a lot of the current top tier deck stuff like Reptiles, Wonder, Gaia to an extent, I guess you could say,
mm,
um don't run Aquila. Now Aquila is a very good card and it is run generically and very much as like a splashable, staple-y sort of card in a lot of decks. But in the top decks where how do you say it? Where there's not a lot of space for you to
yeah,
run funny techs, not a lot of people run Aquila. So I think this is a pretty good format for it, especially since everyone's using sevens and eights again now that the
mm-hmm.
cutie menace is gone.
Just keep in mind after game one, people will side against you. Like, because a lot of the stuff that hits Cuties also incidentally hits Harpies, and people will
Mhm.
play Aquila to out like Vanity's Fiend, you know? So keep that in mind. The one interesting thing from Cuties when I was looking over the list, and I think Spyro mentioned it in his deck breakdown, he was playing Whirlwind Beast Pazuzu, which is a level
Oh yeah,
6 normal that has the cutie stats. The fact that it's a normal is very important, is that it doesn't lose to Aquila, because Aquila only pops
yes.
effect monsters, which I think
I
is
think
a
that was
cool tech.
it's an inspired choice, honestly. I mean, you identify your deck's one singular weakness, which is literally just Aquila. Um, level 4 can pop any level 6 on field, affect level 6, I should say. And you play around it.
As for like the popular cards, it's same thing as last week. Legend Strike everywhere, Aquila everywhere in the sides or the main, depending on the person. Ryza, Harvey. More people are on Harvey now, and Lurker. Surprise, surprise. Lurker good.
Surprise, surprise. I think it's really funny. Another thing that I experienced this locals, I played Reptiles again, just with a more updated list than last time, is a lot more people are starting to side in acetic acid trap hole. Um, specifically for the reptile matchup. Now, while I do think acetic acid trap hole can stop reptiles, most of the time they don't. Because if you, for example, um, trap hole a mismatch so that they don't get a pop or they don't get a special summon, okay, they're gonna summon a mistake.
Like
Um,
like
if
Reptiles
you,
has
yeah,
more options than your one aesthetic, basically.
I felt the same way because I also put acetic acid trap hole in my side, and specifically against the mirror match. It did work out, but I think only in the sense that you kind of have to run two or three, and you have to use them consecutively in one turn to really fully stop reptiles in their
Mm-hmm.
tracks. Because they have so many consistency options and ways to play through, that if you disrupt a miscast, a mismatch, or a mistake, it well, sure, that just means they don't get to go for greed, but they can still play.
Exactly. And on to results that are not just from our locals. We actually, thanks to like both the Volt spreadsheet and Konami themselves releasing lists, we
Hell yeah.
got regional results. I'll go over them very quickly, but just to like give you an idea of what's like topping, and this probably will impact the ban list happening at the time of recording tomorrow. So here's what's been topping. Most represented, Wonder, obviously. Second most represented, Sea Serpent. Volt made a note that Konami's like including all of them together. So like the max ones, the mid-range ones, all that stuff. And then Harpy, Gaia, Light Machine, and then the other decks.
No matter what format it is, Light Machine will never die.
Just just tribute summon Innovator and you're good. That's it's so funny.
It's literally no matter which format you are in, Light Machine has popped up as a named deck in the standings, um, in every single pie chart. Um, I mean, the deck is just consistently very good, and it has not been hit in any way, shape, or
And
form.
like
And
why would
with
Konami
any
hit it?
new, right, and any new Light Machine support just goes straight to the deck. Even any new machine support in general.
Like the coin cards that have been seeing play in some
Yep.
machine decks. As for the cards that are popular there, same cards that are in locals, they just have a lot more Harpy hate. Like I think most lists right now just put like 6 cards or something against Harpy. It's insane. They fucking hate that deck.
It's very overwhelming. I mean, they have a card, Triangle Ecstasy Spark, that invalidates an entire type of card.
Yep.
Um, and I do think, at least with the locals here, where in our kitchen server, only one person plays harpies,
Yep.
so not a lot of people side against them.
And then as for spells, I think most people just run Graceful. I think it's like decided on like stuff like Darkhold in the past, just you don't need it anymore. It's like Graceful or Heavy or stuff like that. And then for traps, Mirror Force is on a comeback, but it's like its place swaps around with itself, Cylinder, and Negate Attack. That's like the three that you see now. But it's mostly like Mirror Force.
Negate attack is so good now, specifically because of Negator Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also good against stuff like Pure Glass, where it's like, okay, well, you magic cylindered one of my attacks, but I still got like six more to go.
Yep. So it's
So
like
that's been really good.
it's up to your deck and what you think is more important. One funny thing, and this was like updated just today, new regional results. Monarch won a regional. I don't know how.
Ayo.
Monarch won one. But they like main like 2 word working, something like that. They were tech for it. And then there was a finals that had worms. Yes, you heard me right. Worms and pure glass aggro in the finals. I don't think we know the worm type, like if it's like playing the max cards or the fusion cards. We don't know yet, but worms made it to finals, which is insane to think about.
Yeah. I think what's even more insane is like worms and music maidens and harpies like all received support, like really good support in the same set in the triple build pack. And Harpies and Music Maidens went on to see a ton of tops, Harpies more so. And Worms just kind of fell by the wayside.
Yeah. If you want to know the problems of worms, add the problems with fusion and then add field spell on top. You know, that's all I need to say. And other than that, I think the only thing we need to just think about is the ban list is tomorrow. Any comments you want to say before we're completely invalidated by linear passage of time and this is outdated?
Yeah, so Merlin said this earlier, but we're recording this the day, 2 days for me, 2 days before the ban list drops. So here are okay. My prediction is that the only change we're getting is Seven Skios is going to be banned. Um, and maybe Thunderbolt goes to 2. Um, that is the prediction that I think the ban will do. However, as for what I want, that's entirely different story. Um, I do think Seven Skios does need to be banned. I think Wonder as a deck is fine. Um, it's Seven Skios itself that is the problem. Like it is causing extremely quick duels where the only hope you have of stopping Seven Skios from OTKing you is to just pray you opened Wordworking or pray you open Cylinder, which is your one of. Um
Or you
and that just
stall the duel and it
yeah,
just drags on.
it doesn't make the game very fun.
Yeah.
And we can hit and ban Seven's Geass without needing to kill Wonder outright. I do think normal Wonder is a lot more fair in that aspect. However, if Seven's Geass does get a hit, I would also like to see Grand Extreme be semi-limited or limited. Personally, I would prefer it to be semi-limited, but I see the arguments for why it should be limited instead. Very much so. It is a very good card. You just get a free Sea Serpent of any level on your field, and you get Graveyard Hate on top of that.
And you
Uh,
gotta
it,
remember that Sea Serp is always underneath Wonder. So like the second Wonder gets hit, you know what happens.
yeah. Um, so it would just be fair that if Seven's Geass gets the boot, that Grand Extreme gets semied or limited outright. And
Mm-hmm.
in Rush, at least, I know the OCG likes semis to begin with, but in Rush, it makes more sense for cards to be semied and for that to be an actual hit than it is for something like in Master format, where you're searching half your deck anyway.
Yep. I mean, as for me, I'm used to how these lists go. I don't think they'll ban Seven Skios. That's just like my doomer, my nihilistic opinion. I think they'll go for like the worst option that technically does something, which is like limit wonder, which like it
Ugh.
reduces consistency, but you'll still get sacked by it every once in a while. And nothing else. I don't think they'll touch any other card unless there's like a loop card I'm missing. And I think statue will stay around, even if I don't want it to stay around.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, statue needs to be banned, cylinder needs to be banned." Um, like a whole like legend cards in general, that have been causing problems in the format need to be banned. I don't think that's ever happening. Strictly because they are legend cards, they are kept in check by the fact that they are forced one-ofs, um, and you can only run one of its entire type in your deck. As we see more people use negate attack, and more decks that whose game plan isn't to like boost attack points to like 10k and then go for a game, I think cylinder will start seeing a little bit less use. I mean, we're already seeing it
Yeah.
with negate attack. We're already seeing it. Um, I think these cards sort of regulate themselves. Um, that's my opinion. I don't think any legend ever needs a hit in any way, shape, or form. Like, eventually, either a new legend or decks will sort of come around to playing around a specific legend, like Cylinder, for example, um, to where it's just not played that much anymore.
or like what happened with Darkhold. But that's more Scat Thief, but it's the same thing. Like over time,
Hmm.
the legends get dealt with.
Yeah, they get like they either get power crept or they just get pushed out of the format. And maybe sometime in the future they'll come back in. Like most definitely, I'm pretty sure. Cylinder will always be good. Dark Hole will always be good. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, but it just might not be the best card in this format any longer.
Alrighty. And now, before we close things out, the prompt from last week from the community, we actually got some memes. So I will quickly send them one at a time for Aura.
Oh boy, I'm so excited. Can't you hear it in my voice?
I've already went through them. I'll give my opinion on them later. So this is the one we got it from Pico because they list anybody who credited themselves. I'll say your name. So this is Pico's meme.
Okay. Um, okay, this is actually a little funny because Pico is such an XQD player,
Yep.
that he would absolutely hate Aquila.
Yeah, for like the worst kind of humor, me reading out a meme. It's just all my homies hate this kind of card meme, and it's Aquila.
And it's Aquila. I mean, yeah, Pico is like the XQD player. He's been playing XQD for like almost every single locals, if not every single locals we've had since he joined the server. Don't know. I don't know how to break it to you though, buddy. It's this is a good card. Good card, friend.
All right, next meme. This one is from, I believe, Cyber. And this one might, it's gonna need context, but you'll get it immediately.
Oh boy. Oh, this is good.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, okay, it's yeah, Merlin, you want to explain the
Yeah.
meme?
Explaining meme funnies. Basically, the Rush Twitter account like reveals cards, and one of the cards they chose to reveal is Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, and it's on the cover of the structure deck. So, and the meme says, "Nobody, not even a single soul," and then the Rush Duel Twitter account drops, "Wow, Ultimate Dragon is in the Ultimate Dragon structure deck."
And the fact that they keep dropping Ultimate Dragon and Blue Eyes by extension. Like you go on the Rush Duel Twitter account and they will have reposted it's either the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon PNG or the Blue Eyes White Dragon
Yep.
PNG over and over and over and over again. Like they keep posting it.
It's incredible. All right.
It's like people are expecting reveals and they're like, "No, don't you like Blue Eyes PNG?"
So crispy and shiny. It is a crispy PNG. I'll give them that.
It really is.
All right, last meme. This one is from Vincent, and depending on how this goes, this entire section might be cut out. All right, and I think that's all the time we have. I think the only thing I'll say, and this will be, I guess, our question to you. Seven's World is dropping within a couple of like 2 weeks, something like that. And depending on how the pipeline goes, a podcast might not be out by then. So let us know down below who you're gonna main in Seven's World, and who do you think the fifth character is gonna be? I'm on team main Yuga, and Mimi's the fifth character.
I agree with you. I think it's. I'm gonna be mating Yuga because he's my sun boy, sweet sunshine. I have a different theory though. I
Oh.
think we are getting 5 characters on launch. On launch, not like as in the new event. I
Mm-mm-mm.
think we'll be getting the main 4 as unlockable characters, and Mimi will be a special like hidden unlock.
Like a secret
Um,
character.
yeah, like Shingo was.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and then the first event I think will be Roa. I've seen some people say that maybe Roa will be part of the launch cast. I personally, because I haven't seen like any of the skills reference
Yeah.
Roa monsters, is why I don't think that's happening. But I mean, if they do it, I think it'd be cool. That means we get maximums quicker, and we get to Asana quicker, and I love Asana. So
I think Roa is like perfect depending on if they do boxes similar to regular Duel Links, like perfect mini box material. I think
Hmm.
Royal Demons is a perfect deck to put in a mini box.
Yeah, we are also moving, or sorry, we are starting from 200-ish cards according to Brad.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm very excited to see what they start off the card pool with. I do think they should probably put more than 200, but I mean, for like the very first day of the game, it's not terrible. But like the game needs to move past Switch era. It really does.
It really does. Like,
Like
if
the game is so much more fun. I think a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions because they played the Switch game. They're like, "Oh, Rush is so simple. It's aggro beatdown. There's not a lot of nuance to it." And while I do agree for early Rush, because I mean the card pool was non-existent, um, modern Rush now is extremely fun. And actually, not even modern Rush now. I mean, Rush a year ago,
mhm.
back in TiVo format, had a lot more variety. So I really hope that they are on top of releasing cards for Rush. I know that they can't do it too quickly, otherwise they're gonna catch up. But just to a point where we are past the Switch game would be nice.
Mhm. And the skills will help with that just a little bit to add more spice to Dragoncaster format the fourth time.
Ah,
The
yes.
I don't want, it's like the threequel, the quadruple. What is there a word for the fourth thing? Because like I don't know, nobody does four things. Like everybody who tried the fourth thing, their show or series ends.
Yeah, like Sherlock.
But yeah, any things you want to close out with, Aura, before we end this forever?
Forever. Oh yeah, we're
Forever.
never coming back again after this.
Yeah.
Our presidential campaign promise. We had to condense this podcast a bit. I mean, like, otherwise I'm gonna keep talking forever. I mean, as you can probably hear, I love
hmm
talking a lot about Rush and Rush Duel. But, we're a little bit on a time crunch today. So, that's just how it be sometimes.
It is what it is. All I'm gonna say is, if you're here for Rush, stay for Rush. If you're here for us, aw, thank you. Aren't I pleasant to listen to?
You do have a very calming voice, I think.
I've heard that a lot, but then I hear the reactions to the things I say, and I think
Okay,
that's
that's an entirely separate thing. Your voice itself sounds very nice and calming. The things you say, however, are very infuriating.
catch us next week. Oh wait, I shouldn't say next week. That actually jinxes me. Catch us next time when I say things that might infuriate Aura and you can write about it down below. I'm just farming engagement at this point. All right, catch you all around. Bye bye.